What is up, my Pika crew? This is the ThePikaWu, and welcome to another Pokemon Wi-Fi battle. This one's going to be an underused tier match against a guy called Void Miasma. I did battle him previously in RU, and a link to his channel will be in the description below. So the team that I'm using you guys are probably familiar with, so I won't go into too much detail about the team. Instead, I'll post a link to the video where I explain each of the different Pokemon sets that I have on this team. Now, looking at my opponent's team, he's running 3 defensive Pokemon and 3 offensive Pokemon. His defensive core revolves around Umbreon, Bronzong, and Roserade. And he has a very similar strategy to mine, where the goal is to set up entry hazards to pressure the opponent and then potentially sweep with the rest of his offensive Pokemon. One offensive Pokemon that strikes really threatening to my team is going to be that Feraligatr, because if he sets up 1 Dragon Dance, then he can outspeed my entire team. And if he sets up 2 Dragon Dances, then I really don't have anything to deal with the Feraligatr anymore. One defensive Pokemon that I want to look out for is definitely going to be that Umbreon, because it walls a lot of my team, and if I do successfully take it down, that opens the window for a lot of my offensive Pokemon to deal a ton of damage against my opponent. For example, my Chandelure can potentially sweep my opponent once that Umbreon is taken care of. So my goal here is basically set up hazards with my Fortress and with my Quillfish, because he doesn't have a spinner, and then try to sweep with one of my offensive Pokemon. So it's going to be a really great match, and I hope you guys enjoy. So I'm going to lead off with my Chandelure, as my opponent's going to lead off with his Jolteon. I led off with Chandelure because it deals well against 2 of his 3 potential leads, his Roserade and his Bronzong. Unfortunately for me, he actually leads off with the Jolteon, and I am Modest Scarf, not Timid Scarf, so I can't outspeed and take him down with a Fire Blast. Instead, I'm scared out by the Shadow Ball, so I'm forced to switch out, and he goes for the Volt Switch to maintain the momentum, which is a really great play. Unfortunately for me, that means he can bring in a counter, and he's going to bring in his Emboar. So the way that he brings it in against a Pokemon that's naturally faster and can take him out with the Draco Meteor implies that he is Choice Scarfed. And I really don't want to make any predictions, and I don't want to catch him on a bluff if he actually is bluffing. I'm just going to play it safe and switch out, because I do have a pretty good counter, and that is my Quillfish, because I resist both of his stab moves. He actually doubles, predicting me to switch out. Unfortunately for him, this is a favorable matchup, because I can taunt and shut down this Umbreon, and then proceed to set up spikes. So he actually just goes for the foul play by staying in, and that's not going to be doing too much damage, which shows that this Umbreon is basically setup fodder, and I'm going to get at least 2 layers of spikes. So I'm pretty sure he's going to switch out this turn, because he knows that foul play isn't really doing much, and I'm pressuring him with spikes. So he's going to just bring in the Jolteon as I set up another layer of spikes. So I got 2 layers up. That's not bad. So he is going to scare me out with a potential Thunderbolt. And Thunderbolt actually 2-KOs my Hydreigon at this point. And at the same time, I do know that I have a pretty good switch in, which is my Sceptile, because although I resist the hit, I can Mega Evolve and kind of absorb the electric attacks with the Lightning Rod ability. So that's my plan of action here. I'm going to bring in my Sceptile. Unfortunately for me, he doesn't go for the Thunderbolt. Very smart on my opponent's part, goes for the Shadow Ball, and that's going to be a 2-hit KO. I can't outspeed this Jolteon because I haven't Mega Evolved yet, so I have to switch out. I'm going to bring in my Hydreigon to take the hit, and as you can see, he's doing a lot of damage. He's definitely Choice Specs. So I know that he's locked into that Shadow Ball. He can't take me down with the Thunderbolt, and I'm going to go ahead and just roost up and heal. I don't want to go for the Draco Meteor or the Dark Pulse just yet, because I really want to conserve my Hydreigon at a high amount of health so that I can pivot into a lot of the Jolteon switch-ins. So here now I'm just going to go for the Dark Pulse. It's a relatively safe play. Luckily for me, he doesn't switch into his Umbreon to resist the hit, and I nearly take him out, so that's really, really good. My opponent's just going to go for the Gyro Ball there. It does a lot of damage. Kind of shows that this Bronzong is probably invested in attack, or at least a little bit in attack. So I'm just going to go for the Draco Meteor, because if he stays in, I'm going to take it out. If he switches out, it's going to deal a good amount of damage against the Umbreon. But unfortunately for me, I am going to miss that hit. So I don't want to stay in. I can potentially roost, but I don't know what he wants to do. If he wants to go for the Toxic, I really don't want to get poisoned. So I have a pretty good switch in, and that's my Fortress. At the same time, I can set up my Stealth Rocks here as well. But unfortunately, at this moment in the match, I realized I brought the wrong fortress. I actually have spikes instead of stealth rocks on this fortress, and I already have a spiker, which is my quillfish. So I really can't do anything except just set up my third layer of spikes. So this fortress is actually kind of useless, and I wish I had the previous fortress, or the real fortress on my team. So here, he's going to bring in his Embor. I am actually just going to stay in to see what he wants to go for, and I'm just going to Volt Switch out. Luckily for me, he mispredicts. He doesn't go for the Flare Blitz. He goes for the Head Smash, and on top of that, he's going to miss. So now I know he's locked into a Rock type move, and I'm just going to bring in my Quillfish to take the hit. So I can just go for the Waterfall after he goes for the Head Smash. That is no problem at all, but I'm pretty sure he doesn't want to stay in anyways. But regardless of what he switches into, that's going to take entry hazard damage and is going to eat a Waterfall to the face. And luckily for me, he actually brings in the Jolteon because that's going to take massive damage. So he, although is going to scare me out, I'm able to bring him down to red health before he scares me out. And what that means is whatever he locks himself into, that's the move he has to, that's his last move he can use. Because if he switches out, that Jolteon is toast because of entry hazard switch in. So he's just going to go for the Thunderbolt. I actually didn't know what he was going to go for. I decided just to bring in my Fortress as Death Fodder because it doesn't really serve much purpose since I brought the wrong Fortress anyways. And I'm just going to let him take me down with 2 Thunderbolts. So the main reason why I didn't bring in my Sceptile is because that was going to get taken down. And if I brought in my Hydreigon, that's also going to get taken down as well. So now that he's locked into Thunderbolt, I can Mega Evolve into my Sceptile and gain that Lightning Rod ability. My opponent's pretty smart and doesn't want to give me a free special attack boost. So he's just going to switch out and bring in his Bronzong. And Bronzong is just going to get taken down by any hit. I have to go for the Focus Blast because if he brings in his Umbreon, which is his special wall, that is going to get 2-hit KO'd by the Focus Blast. And I have a 51% chance of landing both of those Focus Blasts. I believe a 51% chance. No, 49% chance. Anyways, he's going to bring in his Umbreon now. I don't want to take a foul play because I want to conserve the Sceptile for late game since it is my win condition. And I do have a pretty good counter against his Umbreon, which is my Quillfish. So I'm just going to bring that right back in. So he's going to go for the foul play, gets a critical hit, and that does a lot of damage. And that actually does matter a lot because I wanted to conserve my Quillfish at a decent amount of health to deal with his Feraligatr. Because if the Feraligatr does carry Earthquake, I know I can live a +1 Earthquake if I'm at green health, but I'm not so sure right now. So here I'm just going to go for the Taunt because I want to shut down the Umbreon in case he wants to go for the Wish and pass it off to another Pokemon. Instead, he actually just fodders off his Jolteon to get a free switch into another Pokemon. And that's a pretty good decision as well because he can bring in his Roserade and scare me out. And Roserade is really threatening because it can take me down with a Giga Drain since I don't have that great special defense. And at the same time, if I bring in my Sceptile, he can potentially predict that switch and go for the Sludge Bomb. So I don't really have that many options. I think the safest option is just to go into my Assault Vest Machamp because I do get that special defense boost and I can take the Sludge Bomb and I could retaliate back. Unfortunately for me though, that means he's probably going to go for the Sleep Powder the next turn, so I'm just going to go for the Bullet Punch just to deal some extra damage. I could have potentially went into my Sceptile to take the Sleep Powder, but I know I can't take down the Roserade because it's naturally bulky, and he can retaliate back with a Sludge Bomb. So the best option there was literally just to stay in and take that Sleep Powder with my Machamp. So I'm going to go ahead and bring in my Chandelier at this point because I know I resist both his stab moves. And I'm just free to go for the Fire Blast because he doesn't really have a resist. With the Spikes pressure, if his Umbreon comes in, it's going to get taken down by 2 Fire Blasts. So he actually brings it in on the switch, and that's really, really great because he can't take another one, and I can take him down. Unfortunately for me, I do miss, and he's going to get a Foul Play off. Luckily, he didn't go for the Moonlight or the Wish Protect because that would have let his Umbreon survive. So I'm actually kind of grateful he went for the Foul Play instead. He does get a critical hit, and that does take me down to red health, which is kind of unfortunate, but it could be worse. He could have got a Wish off, he could have got a Moonlight off, and I'm not really complaining, because I do hit my 3rd Fire Blast, and his Umbreon is finally taken down. And what that means is that it opens up the opportunity for Sceptile to deal a lot of damage against my opponent. But not before this Feraligatr comes in, and this is a really dangerous threat because my one counter against him, which is my Quillfish, is at a low amount of health, at yellow health, and he gets a free Dragon Dance off against my Chandelier because I am locked into Fire Blast. So here, he's at +1 speed. That is really unfortunate. So I believe with Intimidate, I can actually survive that Earthquake if he wants to go for it. And I really need to just go for the Thunder Wave. He goes for the second Dragon Dance, tries to get a little greedy, which is really beneficial for me because I get that Thunder Wave off. But if he is a Lumberry set, then I lose the match because he removes his ailment and he can outspeed the rest of my team and take down the rest of my team. Luckily for me, he is not a Lumberry set, which means that he is gonna be paralyzed for the rest of the battle. I'm just gonna ensure he's not a Resto Chesto set, so I'm gonna go for the taunt here to ensure that he takes me down without removing his ailment. And that provides the window for Sceptile to clean up the rest of my opponent's team. So even if he does carry the Aqua Jet, it's not going to deal too much damage because I quad resist that and I can survive the hit. And I can just retaliate back with a Giga Drain. So he does have the Emboar and his Roserade left, but because both of them are going to take a lot of damage from entry hazards, I can just go for the Dragon Pulse on both of them and take them both out. And that is going to be the match. I do know that this Emboar is most likely Choice Scarfed, but I can outspeed with my Sceptile because my base speed is ridiculously high. And that's basically going to be it. That's how my team really functions. Pressure with a lot of entry hazards and then try to clean up with one of my 4 offensive Pokemon. And that's going to be the match. I hope you guys enjoyed this battle. It ended up being really close. The decision between who won and lost this battle was decided upon whether that Feraligatr had a Lumberry or not. So it ended up being a really close match, and I hope you guys enjoyed. Feel free to leave a like, comment, and favorite. And if you haven't joined the PikaCrew already, feel free to join the PikaCrew by subscribing. So this is the ThePikaWu. Thank you for watching my battle, and I'll see you guys next time. Peace out, guys.